Welcome to the Society of Wetland Scientists webinar series. We're glad you could join us today. My name is Jody Burns, and as a volunteer with the SWS Webinar Planning Committee and a certified professional wetland scientist, I am pleased to be the moderator of today's webinar. Today's topic is the Corps' regulatory request system, overview, updates, and a demo. And we will cover some other recent Corps guidance topics, APT, and the Aquatic Resource Delineation Report, and the mapping standards that have recently come out. Our speakers today are Justin Hughes, David Schaefer, and Matt Wilson. Justin is a program manager with the regulatory team at the Corps of Engineers headquarters. He brings 21 years of experience with the Corps across 3 districts, with much of his career dedicated to the regulatory program. Justin earned a BS in biology with a minor in chemistry, as well as a MS in environmental studies from the College of Charleston in South Carolina. Coming to us from the Corps' South Atlantic Division office in North Carolina, David Schaefer is a physical geographer with 20 years of experience specializing in geospatial analysis, technology development and management, and federal waterway regulation. He holds a master's degree in physical geography from East Carolina University, where he focused on GIS, machine learning, and remote sensing datasets, including LIDAR, to improve wetland mapping accuracy. Matt Wilson is a regulatory program manager for the Corps of Engineers headquarters in Washington, D.C., and is the Corps' subject matter expert in the areas of jurisdiction, aquatic resource delineation, agricultural issues, compliance and enforcement, administrative appeals, FOIA, and WOTUS. Matt has been with Corps headquarters since January of 2020 after working 4 years in the Sacramento District Regulatory Office in Bountiful, Utah. Prior to joining the Corps, Matt worked at the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and in the private sector. He has a degree in biology from the University of West Georgia and a master's degree in soil and water science from the University of Florida. Welcome, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Schaefer, and Mr. Wilson. Thanks for taking the time to present to our SWS members today.
Good afternoon. Well, thank you. Just to start out, again, I'm Justin. Want to give a big thank you to Justin and Jody for putting this together, and to all the participants for joining us today and letting us come and present. We put a lot of time and effort into these tools, and want to see them used and take every advantage that we can to get the word out, to help increase that use on them, and also to help benefit us and you. So again, thank you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Make sure I'm doing everything the right way. And I'll warn you that we're going to be, let's see if it's letting me. It's taking a minute. I'm going to be toggling between what we call our demo or our test version of RRS and also what we call the live version of RRS. And I just want to make sure it's real clear as this comes up. Sorry, there's a little delay here. But as it pulls up, I want to make sure everybody knows that we want to make sure the live version is going into is what you use to put your request in. And then we're going to use the test and version for the demo. We, of course, use it for test, but we also use the demo. We don't want to get those confused and have people putting things in the wrong place, because we definitely don't want your request getting lost. Can everybody see? Can somebody, I guess, come back on and just let me know if they can see the screen? Can we see the RRS screen, Jody or Justin?
There's a blue screen with the Department of the Army, U.S. States of America.
Okay, so I went back.
Yeah, it's coming. It's just now RRS is shown up. Yes.
Oh, all right. Sorry, there's a big delay on that. I'm not sure I would have had it pulled up first. Again, apologize for that. I'm going to start out in the live version. And the reason why I'm going to do that is to be able to demo the public notices. I will say before we get kicked off here, we really intended RRS to be a one-stop shop for regulatory. We really wanted everybody to be able to find all the information they needed in one place. And whether you're a seasoned veteran or somebody who's just getting started or a mom and pop, to be able to get an RRS, find the information you need, and be able to submit a request. So a lot of you folks are going to be able to go straight to this. So I'm not going to go through a lot of these, real depth on a lot of these features, but I did want to start again in the test environment because I like to show the public notices. So this is our public notice module. And you can see, you can go toggle between the table view and the map view. And of course, there's definitely a lag here, but the Omaha district, I'm going to pick that just because they always have multiple requests. So if you want to select by your district, again, I went by Omaha, and then I'm going to select on North Dakota because I can go in that state. You can then click on the point there to pull it up if you want to, or you can go back to the table view and view the public notice. If you want to see the public notice itself, you can click here. It might take a second. It seems like everything's going a little slow there, but it will pull up that public notice for you to be able to view it. Again, we wanted to be everything in one place for you to, or the member of the public. Any member of the public can access this. It's taken a long time, so I'm going to go ahead and go back. But any member of the public can access this. There are, when I get into the test version, I'll mention this again. If you want to put in a request, or if you want to look at your dashboard, you do have to have an account with login.gov, and you do have to log in each time. But to just be able to comment on public notice, you can go in there and then you can submit your comments right here. I'm not going to do that. Again, I'm in the live version, so I don't want to do that because that would make that project manager probably a little angry at me. But so I'm going to go ahead and back out. But that is the public notice module, and again, available there. I'm going to now switch over to again, this is the test environment, so not for you to use, but again, a good place for us to kind of work in a sandbox and put in some fake requests. I'm going to run through these real quick. We do have the RRS support on the main page there. You can, if you're having an issue with RRS, so you cannot submit a request because of some reason the system's not letting you, this is the place to submit a ticket. It also is a great place to submit feedback. It just goes to an email. But that email is monitored by a contractor from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. They are very responsive. And the great thing about if you put in an issue, we're aware of it, so we can try to get to fixing it as soon as possible. But also if you have feedback, that all goes into our system. So we create a ticket, it goes into our system, and a lot of the improvements and a lot of the fixes that we get are based on your feedback. So things we get through this help desk, we make improvements to RRS based on that all the time. So really good method there. If you have a guidance, something about the regulation, you have something that you want to talk to your local district office about, that help desk is not appropriate. You want to go to the district office. Again, everything's being really slow today, but I'm not going to click on it again, but you basically have this map here, and you can click the office that you want to get to, and it'll give you that contact information for you. So that would be a more appropriate place to try to get that information. Here we also have some videos. What we found in a lot of cases that people are getting hung up in kind of the same places. So we created some videos to help people through those areas, and mostly like the impacts, mitigation, the aquatic resources. If you're getting hung up there, or if you know somebody is, we have like a little 3-5 minute video that you can click on, kind of tell you how to do it. Dave and we're going to run through that too. We also put these videos kind of in the appropriate place in RRS in the request type. So you can find them there and use that as well. Different ways to get back to the home page. Again, just kind of going through all the different buttons here. We do have this stepper on the side, the jump to. In a lot of cases, it takes you to the same information that's on the home page, but we also have a permit process guide. And you may not need it, and we are building it. It's a little different than it looks in the live version right now because we're working on it. But the idea here is to try to provide some questions and a path for people if they don't want to log in and actually get into the system to make a request. So it just gives an option so people can kind of maybe even just see, hey, do I actually need to get anything from them? They can kind of go through this questionnaire and see. Other things I wanted to kind of point to real quick. We obviously have a lot about our authorities, different types of permits. We are working on joint permit applications. So we're trying to get, we have 25 districts that have some type of joint permit application process with a state or some other entity. We're working to get joint permit application sections, so those state specific sections, if you will, added into RRS. That's a pretty labor intensive process, but we're kind of doing them one and two at a time. You can see we still have some districts who don't have their sections in RRS, and that's all this information is telling you. So if you click on these, like Buffalo District for New York, their joint permit application section is not added in RRS yet, so it's still appropriate to go through the state there if that's the case. And it's just telling you that. I think I will go back into the home page. Mention the permitting information. There's a lot of mitigation information too. It takes you to rivets, and then of course we have a lot of the jurisdiction information. So again, a lot of information there. I've been told you guys are kind of seasoned veterans, so I want to go ahead and just dive straight into a request. I'm going to start a brand new one. You can build a request. Now I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. It just says, again, ask you the same question. So I want to say no, sorry. And then I apologize. Unfortunately, live demos take a little bit of typing, and I'm not a fast typer, but I'll do the best I can here. So I'm just going to go with kind of a oldie I used. I'm going to say no, nothing's been issued yet. I'm going to use coordinates just because it's fast, but you can see you can put a project location. There are other types. Between me and Dave Schaefer, we'll probably hit every different way that you can enter in a project location. Again, to be quick, I'm going to hit in the lat long that I've written down. Just to try and make sure I get kind of in the same area that I want to be. You'll notice there are fields that have a red asterisk beside them. That means that they are mandatory. We do have a lot of fields that are not mandatory, and they don't require red asterisks. But what we try to do is if when we went through it again, people had trouble providing that information. In a lot of cases, we try to make those not mandatory, just make it a little bit easier. Make sure, I think I got everything I need. So I took it, and then I'm going to go to no permit required. We have several different request types. I'm going to demo the no permit required to you. I'll talk a little bit about the non-PCN a little bit later, but you can also do a JD if you want to. We have two different permit types. I'll try to mention that again at the end of the presentations, and then we have the pre-application. And I want to start with the no permit required. The idea here is truly, this is activity based only. If you need to do something like geographic, and I think Dave may show this, then you want to go through the JD request type. But for an activity only, this would be appropriate. And it's just a series of questions. It's going to kind of lead you down, determine whether or not you need to get anything from us or not. So what we want to do here is check our address and make sure the location information got where we want it to be. If you get past this screen, and this is what this information is telling you here, your location is basically locked in. And the only way to change your location is to go back in and submit a new request. So once we get the screen, you see there's a bunch of instructions. Again, this is the no permit required. It tells you up front. You do have the stepper out on the side. In order for you to move to the next step, I guess you can move to the next step, but we need all these to turn green. If you have one that's red, it's going to highlight that and tell you what information, and I'll show that as it kind of comes up. But in order to be able to submit, all of these are going to have to be green, each section. The good thing about using login.gov, it does pull over your contact information. You can add an agent. I'm not going to, but I'll pretend like I am just so you can see it. You can add, again, the information here. And then there is a place to put the agent authorization form right there. And I'm going to go and change this back to no. Just again, be quick. And you should see that turn green. So we got green checks. So that's good. Good news. I'm going to be, again, put the bare minimum in here, but please don't do what I do. If you have any questions about what needs to be provided, if you hit the question mark out the side, it'll tell you. If you have other questions, I would recommend talking to the district, so you make sure you're providing what's needed. Again, I'm just going to be really brief. And it is going slow. I do apologize. And this gets us to the no permit required step of the stepper. I'm going to read through these and take a little more time just because I don't want to get off on the long path here. But are you planning to conduct work or
Justin, I think we lost your audio for some reason. I don't know why. It froze up a little bit. I can see you talking, but cannot hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to go to. So again, I'm going to put will the piles be placed in a manner so they do not cause the effective fill, and that's going to be yes. And then if I hit supporting information, again, I'll just I'm not going to do this, but I'll just kind of run you through it. You have lots and lots of options to provide supporting documents. You do need to be careful about the characters. There is a good limit here. I think, so 100 megabytes for a file, then 500 per save. Lots of options that you can choose. And then we do ask you to provide some metadata there. But, again, that's the documents basically associated with that request. I'm not going to do it here just to be quick. And then I should be able to certify. Hopefully I didn't hit something. So I should say no. Yep. And then I'll hit submit, sign, and certify. And actually, I'm going to go back. You can see here it says based on the answers provided, it does give me the no permit required. It gives me the option to download my letter when I do submit. I did want to go back and just show you a different path here. If I was to change this back to
Hey, Justin.
Yes.
Can I suggest that you turn your video off? Because right now your screen is kind of frozen. I know you're talking, but nothing's moving.
Oh,
so maybe if we take off the video pressure, because we don't have to see you talking, right?
Okay.
Let's see. No, but we need, yeah, okay. All right. Let's see if that.
Let's see. Does that help? Can you see my screen again?
Yes, we can see your cursor moving now, right?
Okay. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Well, we'll get back going here. So again, this will pull up the 404F exemptions. So I'll run through that real quick too. Does your project involve impacts to now waters? And yes, I'm going to say no. These should be pretty much all no. Any part of the discharge convert, water, yes. and say no here. I am going to say yes for the farming, and then is activity part of an established farming? Obviously the solar is not, but again, just we're just going to go ahead and try to be brief. I've already demoed this. I'm going to keep it no, and then I'm going to go ahead and sign and certify. Keyboard in front of me. I do apologize for the technical issues here. And then I can submit this request. As I mentioned, it allows you to download it, but I'm going to go ahead and just show you the dashboard. So we did try to make the dashboard, so again, as user-friendly as possible. We can continue to make improvements on it as we add new capability. But we wanted you to be able to see the status, obviously. This one's going to be completed, so this is the one we just did. It will get a DA number later on in the process when it's assigned, but it hasn't been assigned yet, but it goes into our system as completed. Now, I will say, and I could show you here, you'll get your documents, and I'll show you the PDFs of it in a minute, but you can view your documents and download them from here as well. The PM gets these as well. So they'll get signed to a PM, it'll go into a folder, it'll be logged into ORM, my database record. So if there is an issue, if we get a complaint from a neighbor or something like that, we need to go investigate. We have that, and we do have not just the correspondence, but also how you responded to the questions. So that information is all provided, again, with contact information, so we can reach out if need be. But that is pretty much the no permit required. Again, just hitting the dashboard, you have your status. So what's completed is complete, or what we kind of refer to as final. You can say I got lots of drafts in here. It does, when you submit, it goes into submitted. When it gets assigned. And I don't have an assigned here, I don't think, but it basically, when you get assigned, you'll get your DA number, your name, and your contact information. One other thing I wanted to mention, we recently provided this added additional information request, like capability. So the PM, once you get your project is assigned and it gets to a PM, the PM's looking at it and they're trying to determine if it's federal complete, and they say, well, it's not. I need to ask for additional information. They can now go through, again, ORM, our database of record, request that information. That will get sent over to RRS. You'll get an automated email, and you also get this showing up on your dashboard. So probably find one. So this is it here. So you can click on it here. You can also go here and click on the action and then respond to that request straight through RRS, and that'll go back into ORM where the project manager can see it. Again, trying to improve some efficiency, cut down on some of the back and forth, make sure everything's documented, and just, again, trying to get a better process. We'll still, likely be some letter writing, be attached as a file, but trying to, again, improve communication on both sides. The other thing I wanted to highlight real quick is, again, the actions. So you can, so if you had a draft and you wanted to share that draft with somebody else in your office, maybe you don't have approval to approve it or authorize it before it's submitted, you can basically give that over to somebody else, or give them read only, give them read access. If you want to make them the project owner, that is all available to you. This is, again, feedback that we got based on stuff that was in the help desk. Oh, I did something wrong here. I know I am in here, so I'm going to try again. There. So again, I can grant myself, it wouldn't be doing that, but since I know I'm in there, I'm using another email. I can make that person the project owner, give them read write, or give them read only, so they can go in there and make changes if necessary, or review it, or whatever they want to do. So again, that was kind of based on feedback we got. So we added that addition. And the other thing I wanted to demonstrate real quick is that you can build upon or add a request to an existing request. So again, I asked you that at the beginning of the start request screen. So Would you like to start a new request based on existing project? And yes, we're going to use the same one. Let's get the location information. And then this time I'm going to pick a different permit type. So I'll do the 6082. Again, this screen tells you you need to check one more time before you hit continue. Make sure you don't lock in your location. And then we get another stepper. And you see the steppers changed a little bit. We just added more steps, right? So it stays pretty consistent. Going starting with the contact information after the instructions. So I'll use my profile data again. I'm going to say no on agent since we've already demoed that. And then general project information, it pulls all that information over for us. So that does save a lot of time and effort. We'll go to project information. You can pick different, I'm going to just grab a few random ones. You can pick more than one nationwide if you want to. And I'm just being fast, so don't duplicate my poor data entry demonstration here. We're going to say 404. Is any portion of nationwide permit complete? Say no. And then we get to the next screen. I'm just going to again pick a couple of bats. It does pull this from IPAC. So we do have a data share web server set up, so you can get that information out of IPAC and you provide additional information here if you need to. You have a place there for historic properties. And then there is also for the wild and scenic rivers. You can click on here. I'm getting a little afraid to just because the system's been slow, but that will give you a map where you can kind of look and see what's in your area, anything at all. I'm going to hit no, and then I'm also going to hit no for 408. So the aquatic resource inventory, this is kind of, again, one of those areas where people get a little bogged down. This can be a lot of data. I think Dave's going to show it in a different way. I'm not going to enter in these individually, but you certainly can if you want to add a new row. I'm just going to hopefully choose from a folder and grab a CSV file. It will cooperate. That's the one I'm looking for. So we'll need to delete that one that I added in. That's, again, one of those areas where, you know, if people struggle to provide that information, we made it not mandatory, but it is useful if you have it. So please provide if you can. I believe we got everything on that section. I did miss something on the permit information, so I'm going to go back there. Is any part of the nationwide permit? I thought I answered that question. I didn't, evidently. Okay. Now skip ahead back to the impacts and mitigation. Very similarly, I want to go and just add a CSV file for my impacts. You see that adds in. I'm just adding something here. Be quick. And then for the mitigation, the test environment's not set up where we have the mitigation bank. So in most cases, we probably would be picking a mitigation bank. But I'm saying yes here. So I'm going to say on site responsible. And then I can also, again, if we had mitigation banks, I'd be able to show you that, and you can just pick one that's in your area. But for this demo, I'm just going to, again, choose another CSV file. I think I got one more. As you can see, it definitely speeds up the process if you have it in Excel. The big thing about the CSVs that Dave will, I'm sure, contrast against is that this is point data. So if you want the lines and polygons and all that good stuff, the GDB is definitely a better way to go. So hopefully that will all take, and it did. So I've already done, the supporting information and the signer certified and signed. So I'm going to pull up real quick. I wanted to show you the no permit required. So backtracking a little bit, apologize for that. No permit required correspondence, very simple, but it does say, this is based on the information you're providing to us. And it also mentions again, it doesn't address any consideration of geographic jurisdiction. But simple letter basically saying, that based on what's provided, it doesn't appear to be regulated. Activity only. And then we also have the way they answer the question. Now, this isn't the one I used. I just grabbed this randomly, but you have your responses as well. And again, you'll get a copy of this and the PM gets a copy of it. And the last thing before I hand it over to Dave, did want to hit one slide. I think Justin and Jody do have a copy of a RS presentation I provided that has a lot of this information into it, talks a lot about the benefits. I just want to go over what's next for you. We do have, you saw that on the request type, we're building out the non-reporting. These are nationwide only. That's going to be a self-verification tool. It follows the same thought process logic as the no permit required. You answer a series of questions and you basically get 3 responses. You either get the, you do not need to provide a pre-construction notification to us, or it will tell you that you need to do a different request type or possibly send you to do a pre-app to the district. But that's coming hopefully in a month or so. We also have, I mentioned the JPAs. This again, we're working really hard to try to add these in as we kind of go. We try to take 1 or 2 at a time. So we'll continue to work on that. It kind of helps, a lot of these states have their own systems. So trying to get, that's kind of later down on the list, but the data sharing right will definitely benefit that effort. And we are, again, ongoing conversations with a lot of districts and a lot of different states to try to get those JPA sections added into RRS. We figured out that one permit request type, a lot of the applicants agents, they don't care what type of form we're using. They just want the permit. And so what we figured out is we can make the system smart enough to route it, based on the responses to questions, go down the right process or the right path, and then we can spit out the right form to meet all of our obligations, documentation on the back end. So we're going to go to one request type. I mentioned with the JPAs, we're trying to improve collaboration with not just the states, but other federal agencies. We really want to try to turn RS into kind of a collaborative workspace that we can use to coordinate and consult on projects. And also, again, the data sharing, very important to get a lot of the JPAs, improve that coverage of those so systems can talk to each other, but also, with federal agencies to help improve, coordinate and consult, make sure we're all looking at the same data. So setting up APIs and web services to facilitate that. We do want to be able to let people, so I mentioned the building upon a request, but we want to take that a step further so you can actually change the data. And that takes what we call versioning. So that's a little bit further down the road, but something we're trying to get done as well. So you can actually grab an existing request and modify it kind of on the fly. You can grab all the data, pull all the data over there, and then make changes to that data and resubmit. And then automated screening. Some of the tools that I showed very briefly, David probably would go over them a little bit more. We want to provide some of those and make them available. I'm sorry, we want to expand upon those tools, utilizing some of the similar to tools to what we have to screen projects and provide those into RRS so that you can use to help screen your projects. So that is also an ongoing effort. And with that, I will go ahead and end my portion of it, unless there are questions or anything I need to address.
So I'd like to ask one of the questions while we're transitioning to David that Kevin asked. To clarify, is a NPR letter system generated or reviewed and prepared directly by a PM?
System generated.
System generated. Okay. So I have started to look at this RRS myself as a consultant, and my concern is on due diligence with this definition of waters of the U.S. changing so much that I'm not really wanting to rely on a system generated NPR for due diligence. But it is it only usable if it's an obvious upland area? Is that why we would go through the
No,
NPR system?
no, it's
That's
it's only for exemptions, the 404F exemptions and certain um, activities, non-regulated activities such as pile
okay.
driving and 404 waters. If you're looking to get an NPR for work in uplands, you would want to pursue the JD path.
Okay, thank you. That helps me because I'm always trying to get those for my clients with their proposed activities. I guess we're ready for our next one, David Schaefer.
All right. Can you see my screen?
I believe so.
Hopefully you see the RRS.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Dave Schaefer. I'm going to keep my camera off just because the Corps has been having network issues today, and the Verizon thing yesterday. I don't want to mess it up. If you can't hear me, just let me know, and I can switch internet. I've got AT&T too. So again, you've seen the RRS homepage here. I'm going to cover some resources that we've developed. The whole purpose of the RRS is to kind of standardize the way, 39 different districts doing things 39 different ways. So we're really trying to standardize the way we're doing business across districts. So we've developed some resources to try to help you all out. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about here. In particular, the Aquatic Resource Delineation Report and the mapping standards, the GNSS, GPS guidance, and then I'm going to show you kind of some of and talk a little bit more about bulk loading of aquatic resources using a geodatabase. So where can you get these guides? On this jurisdictional information section, if you click on that, and scroll down here, there's this section that talks about scientific methods used by the Corps. If you scroll down kind of here to the bottom, here's the recommended minimum standards for aquatic resource delineation reports. This is the guide for collecting that location data using GNSS, GPS receivers. And then this is a pro project, and an ArcGIS Pro project, and I'm gonna go in a little bit more detail about that here shortly. We also have the template geodatabase, which we're going to add here. You can download our template geodatabase for the aquatic resource inventory for the site when you're logged into the application. But you can also get to it if you go to this regulatory program information. It's under the forms and the jurisdictional, I believe, actually aquatic resource. So we're trying to put it in multiple places because a lot of people said they couldn't find it. So in here, but we're going to add it to that section as well. So what is the Aquatic Resource Delineation Report Guide, and why did we create it? Again, 39 districts, 39 different ways of doing things. What we decided to do is we downloaded all the different guides that various districts had for preparing a delineation report. So there's lots of I think there were 25 different guidance documents on district websites that said how to prepare a delineation report. And basically what we did is we just mashed those up, and then we created some nice maps. And the goal here is to kind of make sure it's clear to you all as practitioners and professionals mapping these resources, exactly what the Corps is looking for a defensible delineation report. So again, delineations are really important. It's the foundation of our program. Once we have a delineation, that's kind of what we base all of our decisions on. And then we want more consistent and easier to review reports. There's thousands of consultants throughout the country, and a large majority of our reports come in via consultants, and they all look different, which makes it harder to review. So we prepared this in hopes that providing this resource will allow you all to provide not only a more legally defensible delineation report, but also a more consistent looking report. That's our hope, so that our project managers become accustomed to looking at that format. Now, these are only recommendations in this document; they're not mandatory. However, again, this is what we think we need to defend this in court. Even though you're preparing this on behalf of your client, we're accepting your work as our work effectively, and we have the responsibility of defending that in court. So this, the Aquatic Resource Delineation Guide, the ARDR guide, it has 5 sections to it. And the guide itself, I know you can see here it's 42 pages. The guide itself is only 13 pages, and then it's got basically these check boxes. But there's 5 sections. There's kind of a general information section, a data collection methodology section. And again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. Please download this and take some time to look at it. Site conditions. So this is talking about land use, weather, climate. So, APT type things, drought, antecedent, precipitation, and then wet season. Those kind of site conditions. Aquatic resource inventory. Of course, this is kind of the heart of the report, where you've effectively itemized everything, and or all the aquatic resources on that project site. And we're going to show you. I'll show you here shortly how we can actually load that into RRS to tie this back to the RRS. All right, so section 5 is supporting maps, figures, and information. So that's, again, it kind of gives you a suite of recommended figures, maps that should be associated, and it's going to really depend on the site. Not all sites are the same. Obviously, if it's just an open water and you're putting scientific measurement devices in the middle of the ocean, you're not going to need wetland data sheets. So it wouldn't make any sense. So, that's why it's a guide for what's typically required. So once you get past the 13 pages, we do have some things here too. This points to our GNSS guide, which I'll go over here shortly. But also talks a little bit about naming conventions, making sure you're using consistent naming conventions for your aquatic resources, and then making sure that those naming conventions transfer through to the permit in the impact maps. All right, so this is kind of just a template that we put together just to give you a general outline of how we think the report should look. And the rest of this is really just going to be a lot of repetitive information from the actual guide itself. So all the sections are in here, but really what I want to scroll down to is some of the example figures. So in addition to kind of putting together a guide of what the sections should be and what should be in those sections of the report, we also put together some example maps, because one challenge we have is getting good and consistent reference figures. So we do have within this guide, or within the I think it's a little bit above this section, but basically minimum mapping elements. So north arrow, scale bar, those type of things. Those are really important for us to have something that not only we can review, but if we give it to a judge or an appeal officer, that they're going to be able to easily read it. So we got pretty basic overview map there with the vicinity map. We also have some example delineation maps. This is a non-tidal wetland. This is a fictitious site. This is NWI data. This is on a federal property in South Carolina. So, but you can see here we've got clear labels, clear naming conventions, and the geodatabase that you use to bulk load aquatic resources into the RRS was used for this. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. A good index map. So if you've got, if you're zoomed out really far, I mean, this is helpful, but really it's important for us to also have real detailed visuals of those aquatic resource boundaries. So a gridded index is helpful, and then making sure that you're showing where the boundary flagging is occurring. So we have clear labels for the boundary flags. We have our data sheets, our wetland data sheets, our stream data point. So these are kind of type of cartographic practices that we would encourage. It's just an example of a tidal map. I don't have any details on that. Moving along, topographic map, LiDAR map, using the USGS 3-depth LiDAR data set, the national LiDAR data set. We've got this nice NWI map. It's got all the different classes here, as well as some descriptions for each of the wetland classes within the project area. Flood hazard map, hydric soils, and well, it's a general soils map, but the hydric soils are highlighted in blue. And then some examples of how a photo log, sometimes we'll get printouts of just a photo, and that's not particularly helpful. So, having more detailed information about where that point is, if you've got the direction, a label for it, those type of things. We also have this map photo log that one of our project managers in Sacramento built long ago, and we use it. It kind of shows you where the photo point is or in what direction it's facing. So that's kind of the Aquatic Resource Delineation Report, and I'm going to show you here in a minute kind of the pro project that you can download, because all these maps, we didn't want to just throw a bunch of nice maps at you and not give you a resource that you could use at your company or your organization. So we do have the Pro project, the ArcGIS Pro project, that was used to create these figures down that you can download and use for your own projects, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Before we move on to that, there's this Aquatic Resource Delineation GNSS guide. So GNSS, that's basically just GPS. So a lot of folks have asked us, we had a couple guides out in the district saying, this is what you need. These are the recommendations when you're collecting, GPS points effectively to essentially calculate aquatic resource areas and also impacts. So if you're going to use this type of data to submit for a permit to the Corps, we would like you to follow these guidelines. So again, why are we doing this? We have a regulatory guidance letter that says that we have to accurately replicate a delineation through our documentation. So we have to document it sufficient such that it can be duplicated in the real world. We went back and forth on what's an acceptable accuracy and that's both horizontal and vertical accuracy, and we settled at kind of 50 centimeters based on the current technology. You should actually be able to get far better than that, especially with RTK corrections, but 50 centimeters less than or equal to 50 centimeters is sufficient, and that's plus or minus. So fits you to be as accurate as possible. We also would like you to collect GNSS metadata. So when you collect when you're collecting GPS points, there's a lot of different things that you can collect about the receiver that's been used. So it's not always possible. The receivers don't always provide these values every time, but there's some things you can do to configure, especially if you're using the Esri ArcGIS field maps platform. There's some things you can do to configure your equipment such that it collects this without you thinking about it. So, all right, so that's the GNSS guide. Now let's talk about the Pro project real quick. So let me bring that up. So hopefully you can see that. Again, it's just those maps I showed you previously. And I've got a suite of maps that I created here just for you all to use. Just download them and use them. I do periodically update this Pro project, so you might check back from time to time because things change. Like I think the NWI is not working right now because they changed some of their field names in it, so I need to fix that. But the beauty of this is, it's free for you to use if you have ArcGIS Pro. I mean, obviously that costs some money. We do hope to produce a QGIS version of this. But right now we kind of are pretty embedded with Esri software, so we tend to use it. But the cool thing about this is you can change your project area. All you have to do is zoom to your new project area, and at least for the LiDAR, it's gonna hit a service. There's a national LiDAR service, and it's a quick way for you to produce a reference map. So that's what we're hoping to provide this resource to you, to encourage you to use it. Some of these services are paid, like we have the soil survey in here. I think this is connected to ArcGIS Online, so you might have to have an ArcGIS Online account. I'm not sure if you have to pay for use of this service, but I do think that you do have to log into ArcGIS Online. But again, the same kind of concept applies here. You remove your review area, you put in a new one, and you move, and it's gonna draw your new map. And I don't know why that keeps one. So, and it's gonna update this list as well. So it's basically giving you all the codes that are in that area. So we're hoping this will make your job a little bit easier, and then maybe you'll use it and provide higher quality or more consistent, if not higher quality, submittals. So, all right, so I've covered the ArcGIS Pro project. I'm trying to hurry up so Matt has time here, because we're getting a little long here. So I'm going to go over to our delineation map. Let's see here. Our non-title delineation map. And I just wanted to point out here, you'll see there's an aquatic resource point, line, and polygon file. And this is the same file that you would download when you go into the RRS. So we use the RRS template to create this delineation map. Now, one of the neat things about this geodatabase is that if you're working in the ArcGIS environment already, you can easily deploy this geodatabase to ArcGIS Online. And when you go in the field and you collect data, it will collect all of the metadata for you. Now, this is a dummy project, so I don't have all of the, the receiver metadata on these points, but this aquatic resource delineation boundary point file is not for bulk loading into the RRS. If you want to just give us centroids of aquatic resources, you need to use a CSV file. We really want you to use the geodatabase. Now, again, the point file is just for boundary flags. So, use this. If you deploy this to an ArcGIS Online account or an ArcGIS Enterprise system, it's going to, once you load the feature class into field maps, it's going to collect all this metadata for you, all the GNSS metadata. So how many satellites, how accurate, what's your vertical, what's your horizontal accuracy. So kind of the workflow here is that once you come back from the field and you've got all these points, you can then convert those to lines and polygons. And the lines and polygons are what are used in the RRS to provide the bulk upload. And I'll show you that just here in a second. And honestly, we prefer polygons. Lines are something we kind of used to do until we converted to the impact thresholds being areas only. So really, if you can provide us polygons of all the aquatic resources, that's going to be the most helpful thing. And the reason why we would prefer that you use the geodatabase is because this data, once you submit it in the RRS, it goes directly into our database of record in ORM once our project managers have validated it. And we can bring this up on our smartphones in the field and in our geospatial viewer system, our national geospatial viewer system. So last thing real quick. Let's bring up the RRS real quick, and I'm going to just show you how you bulk upload it once you've and we do have a guide. We don't have the guide posted yet, but it's a guide to preparing your geodatabase, because a lot of people have tried to use their own geodatabase, but you really need to use our template, and you need to perform an append operation if you already have your own. If you already have your own data in a shapefile or geodatabase or whatever, you can use an append operation to put it into our into our format. And the cool thing about the geodatabase, I saw somebody provided a comment or a question about drop downs in the CSVs. We don't have drop downs in the CSVs, but we do have drop downs in our geodatabase. So and it validates your entries. So if you don't, it won't let you select the wrong regulation type for the state, for example. So let's go into regulatory request system. Let me get into my demo folder. So again, it's the same thing for this project area. I'm going to use this geodatabase because we would prefer that you use the geodatabase, because when you call us 10 years from now and ask us if there's another project this location, if I just have a centroid and a point, it makes it more difficult to find that project than it does if you give me an entire project area. So now we have this section. We're going to go ahead and submit an aquatic resource delineation report and a jurisdictional determination. Make sure you select both if you've prepared a delineation report. A lot of folks have not been selecting both. They'll just select a JD. You have to select the aquatic resource delineation report, or else it will not ask you for your aquatic resource inventory, which we need if you have an aquatic resource delineation report. The reason they're separate is if you just wanted a delineation concurrence, which some districts do, you would just submit that aquatic resource delineation report. So I'm going to hit next real quickly so I can give Matt some time here. And I'm going to go down right to the aquatic resource inventory, since Justin already showed you the application form, and he showed you how to load it into a CSV. I'm going to go ahead and grab my example aquatic resource delineation site in South Carolina. It loads it up, and it also loads this table. So if you can just learn how to fill out that geodatabase and you have access to the software, it's going to be very easy for you if you can integrate it in your workflow. So I think I covered everything I wanted to cover, and I guess I'm going to punt this over to Matt. I can figure out how to.
Thanks, David.
Yep.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes. Looks good too.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Hey, good afternoon or morning to you all, as the case may be. I'm Matt Wilson. I'm a regulatory program manager at Core Headquarters, and I'm the current lead for a few topics, including aquatic resource delineation and jurisdiction. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to provide you with an overview and demonstration of some new capabilities in the Corps' Antecedent Precipitation tool, or APT. Next slide, please.
Matt, would you mind turning your video off just in case that helps with your audio?
Sure. If you could advance the slide, that would be helpful. Thank you. There we go. So here's a list of topics that I'm going to cover. I'll give an overview of the APT. I'll discuss some recent updates to the APT. I'll do a demonstration of how it operates, and then we'll try to leave some time for open discussion at the end. Next slide, please. So let's begin with an overview of the APT. The APT is an automated tool that the Corps developed to facilitate the comparison of recent precipitation conditions for a given location to the range of normal precipitation conditions that occurred during the previous 30 years. The APT provides easy access to information that can support decisions as to whether field data collection or other site-specific observations occurred under normal climatic conditions. So we originally developed the APT to streamline the evaluation of precipitation normalcy for wetland delineations, but it can also be useful for informing other kinds of aquatic resource assessments, including certain aspects of jurisdictional assessments. A comment that we frequently hear is that the Corps should provide more training for the APT. The APT is actually pretty easy to use. I don't really like hearing that comment. I think the requests we hear for training more likely reflect that a lot of practitioners don't have a good understanding of what the tool's doing and maybe think it's something more than it actually is. For those of you who aren't aware, the calculation that the APT completes is a long-standing calculation that the Corps used for decades for precipitation normality to inform wetland delineations. So it's not new. We decided to use the calculation in our regional supplements, the 1987 manual to ensure when delineated wetlands are reflective of normal hydrologic conditions. So those are the WETS tables that are in the regional supplements, and that's the calculation that the APT does. It basically takes the NRCS WETS tables procedure, which took a long time to calculate by hand, and it automated it, which was great. It's not a very complex calculation, but before we had the APT, those calculations took a tremendous amount of time, to the point where you honestly couldn't even really do them. So it was just prone to errors and inconsistencies. And in contrast, the APT is automated and it provides a consistent methodology. So the functionality of the APT has grown since its inception. We felt that more climatic information, the more we'd be able to make easily accessible, the better. So our developers have included new functionality to pull and report climatic data from a couple of other sources, WebWimp being one, Palmer Drought Severity Index being another. But recently, APT version 3.0 came out, and so that's added new functionality to utilize stream flow data from NOAA's National Water Model and USGS stream gauges to provide observed and estimated stream flow data. It's become really popular amongst practitioners. We get about 70,000 inquiries per year, so it's been a huge success. Next slide, please. So this slide contains some useful links. The link at the top is where one would go to download the APT. The second link is the APT user guide, the first page of which is shown on this slide. The third link is to an approximately 15-minute long APT training video that the Corps developed. We do need to update that video because the new functionality for APT version 3.0 is not discussed, so we will be updating that at some point in the future. And then the fourth link is EPA's APT webpage, which hosts all the same information and then some additional information about the APT. Next slide, please. Let's take a look at how the APT works and the information that it generates. This is the APT. I think we need to go back one. I'm not sure. We maybe went a little bit too far. I must have skipped a slide. Anyway, so we can, yeah, there we go. So the graphic on the right shows the APT's main output. We'll walk through that in detail a little bit later. For now, I'll just note that the APT output includes the antecedent precipitation calculations, which is the main function of the APT, but it also provides some additional information as well, PDSI, the WebWimp information. Next slide, please. Let's see. Some recent work has focused, APT version 3.0, as I mentioned, has added the capability to pull stream flow data from the USGS and the National Water Model. So that information can, provides information on observed and estimated stream flow conditions for the area that you're interested in on this date of interest. So there's a new checkbox at the top of the APT user interface. It's highlighted on this slide, which enables this capability. So if the calculate local stream flow normal box is checked, the USGS stream gauge observations and National Water Model estimated stream flow conditions will be provided in the APT output package, along with the APT standard output. One thing I'll point out about that is when you do click that box, if you've used the APT for a while, you see it running, there's a black screen, and you can kind of see what it's doing. It's kind of fun to watch, but then it spits out a PDF at the end, which shows the graph that shows the antecedent precipitation score and all the other information. The stream flow normal data does not come out at the same time that graph pops out. Once that graph pops out, the APT starts running other processes. It takes a while to run. It can take 10 or 15 minutes to get the other run, but the information will, after it's done, be put into the folder along with the main output graph. So just understand it's going to take a few minutes afterwards to process the stream flow normal aspect. Next slide, please. So this slide shows an example of the stream flow conditions, the APT's new output for that. This looks like it's for, let's see. Yeah, so it generates stream flow normalcy data based on user input parameters. So for the USGS-based, the gauge data, the stream flow normalcy is obtained by retrieving historical flow data and percentiles for the location from the USGS's data warehouse. That output is displayed for either the National Water Model estimates and or the USGS stream gauge data in a KML format using Google Earth. So on the Google Earth map that it provides, the gauge locations are shown, and then they're color-coded to illustrate the flow percentile rank for whatever date and time of the year you're interested in. So flow rate, flow percentile, flow condition are displayed for each gauge location and for the National Water Model stream reaches. And a CSV output is also provided, which displays that information in a tabular format for the specific gauge ID locations. Next slide, please. So what led the Corps to add these enhancements to the APT? Well, we frequently need to understand regional hydrology when we're assessing projects. For example, we might need to understand regional hydrologic conditions on a specific date to inform our review of an ecological restoration proposal, or maybe to put monitoring data into context, or maybe to do a JD. While the APT did provide some useful context regarding antecedent moisture conditions, that information on its own really didn't get us far in terms of determining whether a stream would be accepted to be flowing or not on a specific date. In other words, the APT, it evaluates water body conditions based on precipitation data, but it was really found to be not very accurate or useful for predicting stream flow normalcy compared to the USGS gauge data. This slide shows a couple of the publications that led up to the incorporation of the APT version 3.0 capabilities in the latest release. So, yeah. Let's see. Next slide, please. So this was developed by the Corps' Engineer Research and Development Center, better known as ERDIC. So thanks to ERDIC for all the great work they've been doing managing the APT since we first developed it and for these new capabilities. ERDIC did some fairly extensive testing to determine the accuracy of the streamflow normality tool. The steps for analyzing the National Water Model accuracy in the APT are displayed here. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. You can find that in the references that were shown on the previous slide if you're interested. But basically, the historical data set of all the USGS streamflow records from 1979 to 2010 was used to build a normal range of streamflow at both the USGS gauge locations and the National Water Model stream reaches. Normal is considered to be between the 30th and 70th percentile. And then the USGS stream gauges were used as controls since the streamflow data is actually observed on the ground at those locations. The National Water Model data sets were then used for testing and compared to the controls at the USGS gauges. The data were evaluated for a 10-year test period using data from 2011 through 2020. So the top right figure on this slide this shows the locations where accuracy was evaluated at the gauge locations. And then the results were then regionalized into PUC2 regions, which are displayed on the bottom right. Next slide, please. And then the results are shown here. This slide shows the accuracy of the National Water Model data compared to the USGS gauges when categorizing stream flow into 3 different conditions, those being dry, normal, or wet. So again, basically, ERDIC ran the National Water Model every day for 10 years, looked at the estimated flow percentile, and then compared those to the USGS observed flow percentiles in the area and compared them. And doing that, ERDIC was able to get a % accuracy of when the National Water Model agreed with the gauge stations. So, yeah, again, this map on the right shows the accuracy assessment. In the light blue shaded watersheds, the National Water Model was predicting stream flow as being normal, below normal, or above normal with 60 to 80% accuracy. That means 60 to 80% of the time, the National Water Model correctly estimated stream flow is falling within the correct bin of those 3 bins that are shown in the table on the bottom left, which are the flow percentile categories and conditions. So let's see. That's not a super high level of precision. So I mean, it's good, but we still need to be cautious when we're interpreting the results. That's always something I say with the APT and any output from it. Let's see. ERDIC observed a consistent trend where the National Water Model performed better along streams with higher stream order and lower accuracy in drier areas with ephemeral streams. So that's something to know as well. Let's see. Next slide, please. Let's turn to a quick demo of how to run the APT. A lot of you probably know this, but if you don't, we'll just run through it real quick. The box on the left side of the screen is the main APT interface screen where you enter your location and date information and select the options you want to run. One of the newer APT functions is this option in the top left to have the APT use gridded precipitation data. So we added that functionality in 2023. Basically, the APT pulls data from established weather stations, which are points on the Earth. But if your site where you're interested in is in a remote area without any nearby weather stations, then the gridded data can be helpful. The gridded data basically uses modeling to interpolate the estimated precipitation in the spaces between the actual weather stations. So, you know, it can help in places where, like the arid West, where weather stations might be sparse. So if you check the use gridded precipitation box in the top left, you can switch from using the direct weather stations to use the gridded data. Sometimes I'll run it as both just to see the results, but it is useful. So
Hey,
moving
Matt,
on to in the top right. Excuse me?
can I insert in here? Can you take a step back and just say this is not on a website. This is software that you have to download and get on your desktop. Right? You might have.
Yeah, the instructions to get the APT were on one of the previous slides, but yes, you have to download it on your computer.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I want to make sure we're.
Okay. Let's see. So moving to the top right, you can see the box for calculate local stream flow normal, which is the new functionality that I just discussed in the previous slides. I'm pretty much always going to want all the information I can easily get, so I'll almost always check the stream flow box if I'm running the APT for some reason. The gridded precipitation, it takes longer to run. I usually don't use that unless I've got time to, or unless I'm in an area with sparse weather stations, but you know, it's an option. The next function I'll show you is the scope drop-down option. It's on the top right there. The APT's default setting is to calculate the antecedent precipitation conditions for a single point on the ground, but the scope option allows you to calculate conditions for larger geographic areas and polygons. So options are based on watershed boundaries, so you can use a HUC 8, a HUC 10, or HUC 12, but you can also use a custom polygon if needed as well, and that can be useful in some areas, mountains perhaps, is where I've used it. And then lastly, we've added the functionality to have the APT run multiple dates. A lot of times, you know, you did 3 or 4 different site visits, you know, maybe you got a delineation report that was done in July of 2025, you did site visits in October. You're going to want to run it for all those dates. If you can run it for, use that plus button to the right, the blue plus button, you can run it for as many dates as you want. Or you can run, if you can use the switch to date range, you can run the APT every day for, you know, for a whole range of dates. So that can save some time. To operate the APT, all we really need is to enter some basic information, just our target location. So you enter the latitude and longitude of the site you're interested in and the lat long fields. And then we need to enter the date that we're interested in the date field. That could be the date of your last site visit. One thing to note about the date is that it takes a couple days for the weather stations to update. So you can only run it right now for 2 days prior. So today's 15th of January. The soonest, most recent date I could run would be January 13th of this year. So you have to wait 2 days before you can get your site. On the right-hand side of the slide is a screenshot. It's the black screen I referred to earlier of what the APT looks like as it's running. You'll see a lot of scrolling text move by real quickly as the APT completes its processes. It's just describing everything it's doing as it's running its analysis. I find it very interesting to watch while it's running. It gives insight into what it's actually doing. It's a very transparent tool. And then once the process has been completed, the APT creates a folder to provide the output information. It'll provide a PDF of the main APT output, which we'll look at in a minute, and then also the National Water Model data that I discussed a second ago. Next slide, please. So this is an example of that main output you get from the APT. I ran the site for a site in southern Utah that I was able to visit a couple of summers ago. There's a lot of information here. I'll just cover it in pieces. I'll say the key information that the APT was designed to provide is the blue highlighted box in the lower right side of the output. That's the antecedent precipitation result. That's it. That's really what you're looking for with the APT. In this example, the result is wetter than normal, which is signified by a blue box, which says wetter than normal. If the conditions had been normal, the box would have been colored green, and it would say normal. And if the condition had been drier than normal, then that box would be colored red, and the box would say drier than normal. And that's the main function that the APT was designed to do. When I hear that we need to train people on this, I just really think, excuse me? What? I heard some noise. I'm sorry. I'll keep going. And so when I hear people ask for more training on the APT, I think it's really just that a lot of people are expecting more than that. They're not clear on what the APT does. So I'll probably say this a few times. The main message that I try to convey to practitioners when I give this talk is that the APT doesn't provide be-all, end-all answers for assessment aquatic resources. It's really just an efficient and accurate process for obtaining existing data. Don't get me wrong, it's really useful. It saves us a lot of time, it automates calculations, but you know, it's just a calculator. The data it provides are really useful, but the point is you still got to use your brain in professional training to interpret the results. So just know that, like, it's just telling you if it's drier than normal or wetter than normal. That's all it is. But what about all this other information on the slide? Well, let's take a look at that. Next slide, please. So looking at this main graph with the orange bar and blue line on there, we see several pieces of information that were used to inform the antecedent precipitation score, meaning what's that blue box there. The black lines, they're kind of small at the bottom of the graph, show the daily precipitation totals for the recent past. The blue line shows the 30-day rolling precipitation totals, which is the sum of the daily total precipitation from a specific day and the 29 days prior. The orange shaded area represents the 30th to 70th percentile range of normal precipitation based on the 30-year average for whatever location you're in, and that's considered the 30-year normal range. So next slide, please. So that blue line, the 30-day rolling precipitation total, is the APT queries it for 3 points. It queries it for the target date, 30 days prior to the target date, and then 60 days prior to the target date to determine if conditions on that date, on those dates, were normal, wetter than normal, or drier than normal. Those 3 observations of precipitation normality, those are the data points that are used to calculate the score. Next slide, please. So in addition to this wetter than normal result, signified again by that blue box, also shown in the 3 columns to the left of that result is a breakdown of how the calculations were run. So if you're interested in how we got to wetter than normal, those 3 boxes, the wetness condition, condition values, and month weights, that's how we did it. Those are the NRCS's WETS tables calculations that's broken into the component steps. Like I said, it's not a complicated calculation. It's actually very coarse. So before I get into that, one thing I'll note about this particular run is if you look on the main graph, our most recent observation, it was September 25th, 2023. It's that data, if we'd have just run or just a couple of days later, it would have been down in that orange bar. It would have been in the normal range. So that can just show you that it can be sensitive from day to day changes. The calculation that the APT runs is coarse. Right now, it's showing above normal for that day because it's above the orange range. But 2 days later, it's going to be in the normal. It could change your result. So it's kind of you got to understand it's a coarse calculation. So basically, if the conditions are either going to be wet, or dry, and then it assigns a condition value of 1, 2, or 3, depending on whether it's wet or dry or normal. And then it weights that using months. So with the most recent month weighted 3, the second observation weighted a 2, and then the most distant in the past of the 3 observations weighted a 1. Let's see. So the end result is in the right-hand column named product. And then the products for all 3 observations are summed, and the sum determines the antecedent precipitation calculation. Again, in this example, our conditions are wetter than normal, signified by the blue box. And so I'm sure a lot of you are confused. The WETS table calculation, it's very simple. But basically, the sum of the products is 16 there, which per the antecedent precipitation score table, which is shown in the bottom right, that corresponds to a condition of wetter than normal per the WETS table. So it's very coarse. The next slide, please. This table shown at the bottom of the APT describes the weather stations that were chosen to run the analysis. The weather station table includes the name, coordinates, and elevation for each weather station the tool is pulling data from. The primary weather station that was used is shown in the top row. The second, third, and fourth rows show secondary, tertiary, and quaternary weather stations. The days normal column, which is the second from the right there, identifies how many records were incorporated from each weather station for calculation of the normal range. The days antecedent column identifies how many records were incorporated from each weather station for the previous 90 days. In this example, if you look at that far right column, you can see that all 90 days of the precipitation records came from a single weather station, Cedar City 5E. And that's actually typical. When the APT chooses what the primary weather station it wants to use, it usually sticks with that station. It's only going to pull from the secondary or tertiary stations if the data from the primary station is not available for one or more dates. It's not uncommon for a weather station to have like a data glitch or data omission for one reason or another. So those backup stations allow the APT to run even if the primary weather station is incomplete. So the distance from your site to the weather station and the elevation change from the weather station to your point of interest are shown in these middle columns. The distance and elevation difference of values, they're weighted to create a single number by which the stations are sorted for suitability. One thing I'll point out here in this example, the distance to the primary weather station is shown in the fourth column. It's actually 12 miles, but the other three weather stations are a lot closer, within 4 to 7 miles. And if you're wondering why the APT would choose a weather station that was farther away than 3 other available weather stations, the answer in this case is due to elevation. This is in southern Utah. We're at 5,000 feet. Precipitation out west varies greatly with elevation. Actually, we're at 6,300 feet here, so we're pretty high up. And so that makes a huge difference in the west in precipitation. So it's pulling from a station farther away. If you're interested in the finer details of how distance and elevation interplay, I refer you to the APT user guide, which was linked on a previous slide. Next slide, please. So in addition to running the antecedent precipitation calculations from NRCS, the APT also incorporates a couple of other functionalities. These are separate from the antecedent precipitation scores. They're just kind of bells and whistles. One of these additional data sources is the Palmer Drought Severity Index, also known as the PDSI. That's updated weekly by the Climate Prediction Center. It's based on rainfall, temperature, and historic data. So it can capture the presence of prolonged drought conditions. It's really not site-specific. It's more of a regional scale tool. But it can be useful. That information can be useful to supplement the information provided by the APT. Again, the more information you have, the better. For example, you could have a situation where the APT tells you that precipitation was within the normal range, but then you look at the PDSI and see that extreme drought conditions existed at the time of interest. In that case, that might be a flag to signal that we might need to interpret the APT results with a higher level of caution. Maybe it's been in a long-term drought, but then the rains returned and pushed the condition into normal, but your water levels are still low regionally, is a good example. Next slide, please. Here's some more information on the PDSI. I'll just, I think I just said most of this. We'll skip forward. Next slide, please. Another supplemental piece of information is information from WebWimp, which is a water budget model that uses interpolated average monthly air temperature and precipitation data to calculate a monthly water balance for a given location. So basically, using that information, it determines the approximate dates of what could be considered the wet or dry season for your observation location. So dry season is indicated when potential evapotranspiration exceeds precipitation, resulting in drawdown of soil moisture storage, and a moisture deficit is basically how that works. Next slide, please. I'll reiterate that WebWimp is not part of the APT's main calculation. It is supplemental. It provides some reasonable expectation of when a time of year may be in a wet or dry period. WebWimp's not really site-specific. It's pretty coarse. It uses about a 0.5 degree resolution. State of Florida, sometimes it'll tell you you're in the ocean. It's kind of tricky to get WebWimp to work there. Let's see. And the chart at the bottom of the slide shows the input and output parameters of WebWimp. I won't go into them, but I will say it basically looks at parameters like temperature, evapotranspiration, precipitation, and snowmelt to estimate the soil moisture, which is the ST at the end of the month. Let's see. In some seasons, moisture is considered to be in surplus, That's a condition where excess soil moisture is sufficient to result in surface runoff and percolation of water below the root zone. Those are the dark blue areas on the chart of the slide. And then the lighter blue areas are just times of the year when available water exceeds demand. So you're having increasing water levels. Next slide, please. And this is the good stuff. This is the new stuff. It's the output from the National Water Model Streamflow Estimates. As I mentioned before, the APT is going to generate a KML file that's imported into Google Earth to show the estimated streamflow conditions for the time of the year in the nearby NHD flow lines. Here we see our query point where we did our APT run, as well as several nearby points where the streamflow was estimated. Each point, again, is color-coded, so you can get a quick sense of whether streamflow is normal, above normal, or below normal for your time of the year. If you click on one of those streamflow estimation points, a table will appear, which provides information on your distance from the target location, the estimated flow, flow percentile on that date of the year, and whether it's a normal, above normal, below normal for that time of the year. Next slide, please. And this looks very similar. It's the output from the USGS stream gauge observations. It's really similar to the National Water Model, only the data are, again, from those actual US stream gauges. Again, you get a KML file, Google Earth map with the gauge stations mapped. You can click on them and get information on flow and flow percentile. And that's it. Next slide, please. That concludes the overview of the APT. I'll open it up to questions on all topics now. Thank you.
All right, guys, that was great. A lot of information there. I'm hoping everyone has been paying attention to the question Q&A area, because we have a total of 28 so far questions that have been answered, and there's been some really good ones. I'm going to read a few of these. We have about 3 or 4 minutes left before we want to go to our exit slides. For any follow-up questions that you do not get answered today, we have these 2 email addresses here that you can use. Let's see. One from Kevin that David answered: GIS data is not currently required in the districts I work in. He's in Seattle and Portland. Do you anticipate this changing nationwide in the future, or will GIS data submittal remain optional? David, did you want to say the answer?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly not required, but it's helpful if you submit, if you have it, right? If you're already collecting it, integrating, because we've provided the templates, and I think it benefits you to integrate that into your workflow. But you know, it makes it easier for our project managers to evaluate the site if they can actually evaluate the real data. And then secondarily, there's also research applications for the data. So ecological modeling of wetlands using machine learning and things like that is something that we're exploring.
Okay, I can tell you're really into the GIS. Now, me being a biologist and one who goes out there and collects it, I use a GIS specialist to help set up some of my things. And when I looked at the GNSS mapping recommendations, I was wondering how the Corps landed on the 0.5 meter mapping accuracy, or less than 50 centimeters. What can you give us some insight on that debate?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, you know, tested a lot of the more modern, talked with a lot of vendors to try to figure, you know, what's achievable, you know, with some affordable units. There's some units that.
I think your audio went out there a little bit. Can you repeat that? Oh, we're still not getting it. In general, I'm going to say, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Sorry.
We can hear you now. Yes.
It's probably Verizon. So we tested a number of units that we had vendors send us, and we also own some units. Some of them are less than $1,000, and those out of the box could do better than 50 centimeters. We bumped it from even in dense canopy cover. So we feel with the current state of technology that 50 is more than reasonable to ask, and we think you can do actually much better.
I would agree. I do a lot of that work. It's possible I know sometimes when you're very remote areas, you still have to keep bumping that accuracy out just so you can get some reading because it'll take too long. But another question I needed to follow up with that I was discussing with my specialist is the half meter mapping accuracy expected for every map location or just an average of the entire project's mapped features?
It's a good question. I mean, I would say that it's per point. I mean, again,
point.
we have, yeah. And if you have questions about particular units that you might be able to use, even in remote areas, there are some that can get corrections, even with no cell signal or internet connection. So, and actually, there are some units that are out of the box in very remote areas that will get 30 centimeters.
Okay. All right. Well, there's still quite a bit of content in here that I think everyone, if you have other specialists, if this is not your specialty like GIS, to rewatch this video, which will be posted on the SWS YouTube channel here in a month or two, I believe. If you're members can access it sooner within the member portal. So I think that's all we really have time for today. We are proud to recognize our sponsors of the SWS webinar series for 2026. We have Davy Mitigation, SWCA, and RES. We appreciate their support. You can find more information about them at their websites, as you can see on the slide. Please visit, like, and follow our SWS webinar sponsors. Next slide. Yes, we have our next 3 months, we've got some great things planned. February, regulated wetlands beyond waters of the U.S. In March, we're going to have a longer panel and discussion over professional ethics. And then in April, the SWS PCP folks are going to give a presentation in a public webinar on how to become a certified wetland scientist or wetland specialist. You will receive a follow-up email for a survey to get your certificate of participation today. We're hoping to attach the Q&A that is that happened with this event and the slides that were presented. Next slide. Lastly, take advantage of your member benefits. Being a member granted you access to this webinar today. So I hope you're appreciative of that. But thanks for everyone who joined us today and our presenters. I thought they did an awesome job. Everyone stay well and have a great rest of your day.